I think more people like you, more parents should just really just spank their bratty kids. Like get them. My name is Aaron. I'm a dad of three, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And in this video, I want to share with you my perspectives on why I think you should probably at least consider a different point of view in disciplining your kids and particularly spanking them. Okay, so this video is not supposed to be like, like this is how everyone should do it. Use this video if you agree or disagree with me. Leave it in the comments below and how you choose to discipline your kids, and would you consider spanking your kids? And I'd like to even read stories, but really quick in this video I want to go over the reasons why I spank my kids. I choose to spank my kids with my wife, of course. The number one fears that I think people have when they don't spank their kids, and why I think I could address those. And number 3 is how. How do I particularly spank my own children? So I remember growing up, being punished wasn't a big deal. Like everyone got hit in the back of the head or got my ear twisted and pulled, and I got the belt, the hanger, the spoon, the chancla, the rod of discipline, and I'll more on that later. That one's probably more closer to just my lived experience. But I remember a lot of people just getting, disciplined, and it wasn't this big deal. The one time that I really remember being spanked was when I was in 6th grade. So that's probably 11 or 12 years old. My dad, who was in the Navy he's in the Navy for 23 years. So 10 months at a time, he was gone. So it was I was even scared then. And when my dad was home, I remember printing out an explicit picture in the printer, like a bozo. And like an even bigger bozo, I left the paper in the printer tray when I left for school. So when I realized that when I was in school, I was like, my heart sank. I was like, oh no. I hope they never find it. I hope they don't find it. Turns out my dad found this explicit photo. When I got home, he yelled at me to come upstairs, stern voice. I was like, no. I went upstairs. He showed me the picture. It was so bad, guys. It was so bad. He took that belt to my behind. That thing, beads of blood seeped through my skin. I remember this like it was yesterday. Beads of blood seeped through my skin. And I remember looking in the mirror, and it looked like, I thought these looked like tiger stripes on on the back of my butt and my legs. I was like, I remember being spanked at the time. During the spanking, clawing away from this man as he was reading Bible verses to me, like, spank the kid, he won't die. It's like, that's what I now fast forward, just so you know, I'm not traumatized. I have a great story. I have a great relationship with my dad, great relationship with my parents. They have a great relationship with my kids. Like, it's all great, right? The story ends very well. But my point is that spanking and that kind of physical discipline wasn't a big deal. And so here, let's get into the video. Like the whys, the fears, and the how. First, the whys. Why is the reason? And I think it's because a lot more kids nowadays are becoming less disciplined, and parents are deciding not to discipline their kids more. Now, when I say discipline, I really mean spanking. I think that timeouts is great, and I use timeouts too. We could go into how I discipline my kids, but the timeouts and the taking away of toys, especially at a very, very young age, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, no scientific fact, that's facts actual whatsoever. But I just don't think that kids at especially a young age, like let's say 3, 4, 5, which I've spanked, don't understand what they did wrong fully until they physically, tactily get hit and experience the pain and the instant regret for what they did and this extreme punishment. Like, that's when they really get they can't rationalize. They don't have enough faculties up there working up to help them understand that they have to feel the wrongness in their actions and their decisions. And so instead of administering discipline, what I think parents, and this is what I've observed, what parents tend to do is they pacify in two different ways. So instead of discipline, there's pacification. And to me, there's two primary means of pacification. The first means of pacifying your child, instead of disciplining them, is you just give them screens. Now, don't feel judged if this is you. But if your kid is throwing a tantrum, acting out, being snobbish, or whatever, crying, whatever, a screen gets popped into their hands. Phone, tablet, whatever, like, I don't know, like TV. And so it pacifies them. Now, what that doesn't do for them, it doesn't teach them the coping techniques and mechanics and the ability to like calm their emotions and their body down. And it just pacifies them. Now everyone gets what they want, but not what they need. Parents get a quiet kid. Kids get the entertainment from the screen, but no one gets the skill of dealing with those, big emotions. So that's one way that parents pacify their kids. The second way that they pacify their kids is through medication. And this one's more sinister, I think. And I think this one is like, I got my tinfoil hat on, like big pharma tries to get you addicted. From what I've read through my, research, on YouTube and Google, is that we have the upcoming generations, the most medicated and diagnosed generation that there ever was. And you wonder why, right? They're diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression at like 3, 4, 5. Now, I don't want to judge your particular kid, your particular family, your medical dispositions might be passed along. I have no idea, right? I'm just a person talking to you. But my point of view is that how is this possible? That a whole generation, and I think it's because technology is available. It's easier. I think when they have the screens, there's a rewiring of the brain that actually makes them ADHD, like they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal when they don't have that electronics to soothe them. So I think you're one, actually rewiring their brain and doing that. And number two, if a parent is able to blame something that they can't control, which is a diagnosis, then they have an excuse for their lack of parenting. If you feel triggered, put it in the comment section. It's all good. This is just my opinion. You can agree with it or disagree with it. It's all good. We're all adults here. And so what ends up happening is you have these undisciplined kids grow up into undisciplined adults. And undisciplined adults put together make a undisciplined society, or rather chaos, a chaotic culture. And what a chaotic culture brings out, so many things, right? We could just kind of go down the list. A decline in morals, a decline in value, a decline in the ability to be visionaries, a decline in innovation, a decline in education, in wisdom, a decline in wisdom, a rise in violent nature. I can see this all over. Not only that, I see organizations lowering their standards so that more people can qualify for them. And that's across the board. Less ability to be great engineers, great medical professionals, great law, like all these STEM areas, they start to fall, and the test scores start to fall, and the collective education and wisdom of the society starts to fall, and the values and the social structure and all, it's just a decline, a chaotic culture. And I think that's all because of undisciplined kids are being parented by pacifying parents. I think this bears weight. I heard Jordan Peterson, a clinical psychologist, say this one time about raising kids, is that you want to raise kids who their peers want to be their friends and adults want to be around them. And I thought this was very interesting because the peers who want to be their friends, that is their friends, their network. And then the richness of their lives become, elevated with more friends in their life. Because you ask a kid, like, the number one thing for them is like not, they don't want to be alone. They don't want to not have friends. There's a lot of people who don't have friends in this world. A lot of adults who don't have friends, and it's probably even worse for kids because they don't have the ability to deal with that kind of thing. So the rate of suicide is because they feel like they don't have anyone to turn to. Lack of friends. They don't have kids who are depressed in the middle school, high school years. They don't have any friends. Imagine going to a school not knowing or not having any friends. Then they go in the bathroom and they sit on the toilet. Or they try to go into a classroom and sit with a teacher. They don't have any friends. I remember experiencing this. Not having friends is the worst in high school. You have a birthday, no one to invite. You go to prom, all these events, you have no one to go with. You're hoping someone would not having friends is the worst. And it's so bad for kids. So bad. It's actually to the point where now parents are trying to make friends for their kids in high school. They don't have the ability to make friends and keep friends, because none of their peers earlier never wanted to be their friend, so they didn't have even the ability to understand and socially adapt and get all those social cues and understand how making and keeping friends works. And so you have this very lonely and depressed individual with no friends to turn to. So that's one, the friends. Number two is adults, because adults will fake it. They'll like, nice to be around your kid, but they really won't want to be their kid. And adults are two things to your kids. Adults could be a mentor to your kids and an opportunity to your kids. And this was something that was very important to me. I want my kids to address every adult that they run into in the room, that say hi and address them, because that adult could be their mentor and could have an opportunity, because those adults might have businesses, might have opportunities. Like they might have a way to get my kid a job that they know somehow or some way, or get them apprenticed or something, work at their shop or whatever, and to be their mentor. So a mentor unlocks wisdom, and opportunities unlock wealth. And that's the two things that I think other adults can pour into my kid. Now, for me, I'm trying to give as much wisdom to my kid as possible. But I know that I only have a limited amount of wisdom. There are other adults out there wiser than me that could be their mentor, and I want them to be their mentor. Now, I will help them sort it all out within the value structure that, I feel our family is called to. But yeah, I think that they could learn from a whole host of great adults and mentors in their life if they're likable, if an adult wants to be around them, if they're not constantly yelling and being kicked and all that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So, and not pretending like they want to be around my kids. So yeah, I think that is a huge reason why to discipline your kids. Okay, let's talk about the fears. I think the number one fear that people might have into not spanking their child is they don't want to traumatize them. They don't want to traumatize them. And I get this because a lot of people, a lot of adults, a lot of parents have lived through a lot of crap, have traumas that they're still dealing with, and they don't want to be that for their child. And here's what I'd say. That's why I told you my story in the beginning, is that I experienced some severe and epic beatings, and I'm not traumatized. And I think it's because I knew my parents loved me. I think it's because I knew my parents wanted better for me, and that they weren't doing this out of malice or anger or kind of vengeance. They were doing this because they loved me, and they didn't want me to be that person. They wanted me to stay away from evil and sin and wickedness, and stay the course of righteousness and get that stuff out of my life. And I knew that they loved me because of all the other stuff, right? Spent time with me, told me they loved me, very tender moments, all that kind of stuff. And so I think that our fear of passing on trauma and being that traumatic event in our kid's life, I think that is, that could be counteracted or avoided totally and easily if you just tell them that you love them. Spend time, spend energy, tell them you love them, and it's a package deal. It's like setting up their, and we'll go into this, the how, right? The how matters a lot, but it's like you just tell them that you love them, and they know that it's not like a vengeful act on you, like some kid just set you off in the wrong way, and now you're taking vengeance on them. Like, this is better for you, this is vengeance for you, and they're the victim, rather than this is for them. Like, the discipline is for them so that they don't grow into a particular type of person that no one wants to be around. So that's the number one thing, is trauma. Number two, I think the number two fear is that they won't like you. And this is kind of goes hand in hand, but this is more like for self-consciously. You don't want your kids to not like you or be scared of you. And I'll tell you, I spank my kids. I could only tell you from my point of view, they still run up to me like they've never seen me before after 1 hour. It's like they run up to me with like this energy of just want to just hug the crap out of me. You know what I mean? Like that's what they want to do. So I haven't experienced that. Again, I've only spanked a 5-year-old. I've never spanked a 12-year-old. I'll tell you in 7 years. But I think that it's part of it. It's like you want to let them know that this is better for them. They need this because they don't. You need to shape their psyche and their character out of whatever got them into the discipline in the first place. Get that. There's so much wrong with us in the human condition. Like, get that out of here. And you want to make a great little human. And the best way to do that is to spank the crap out of it. Get it out of here. I shouldn't be joking around with it. I think I like this topic. I think it's a funny topic. Number 3, I think this is less of a fear, more of just a kind of a thing that it's too hard. But this is the call of a parent. It is hard. It's difficult being parents, parenting, and we're gonna mess up. We're gonna mess it all up, and they're probably gonna. There's whether or not you spank them or not, you're probably gonna mess them up anyway. They probably have to talk to some psychiatrist or therapist about you in the future anyway, whether you do or don't spank them, because we're imperfect, right? So mom, dad, don't worry about it too much, okay? So just try your best, and if you love them and you guide them along with what God wants for their life, God's got them. Okay, so let's talk about the how. This is just my personal way of doing it, how I spank the kids. Now, you could use this for your own measuring stick, right? Whether or not you feel comfortable with this or not, or it's not going to work for you or whatever. This is just how I do it. Number 1 is, again, I start with love. I want to make sure that I start with all the other stuff. I spend time with them. I spend energy with them. I tell them I love them. I tell them I'm proud of them. I tell them how much their drawing is great, and I'm at their soccer games and playing soccer with them, or eating dinner with them and spending time, energy, that kind of thing. So start with that. Like, it's not just discipline. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens with everything else in life. They see a full orb picture of dad, not just the guy who spanks me, right? So there's a full orb picture. That's number 1. Number 2 is have a scale. Okay, when I say scale, I mean like escalation roadmap of how you escalate bad behavior, sinful behavior, wrong behavior. So what I do, my scale is 1, I verbally tell them, hey, stop that. Okay, stop that. Then I go into one of 2 different punishments. Okay, I say, hey, if you do that again, depending on what it is, I'm either going to remove you, you're going to have a timeout, or I'm going to flick you in your mouth. Okay, don't be triggered with that. Okay. Now, I should say that when I talk to the kid, when I talk to my child, I will always remove them. Either I'll whisper in their ear, or I'll talk to them in a side room, or I'll call them out and I'll call them in the side room. So it's not in front of everyone. I don't make a scene. I don't make it in front of people. I don't kind of make this big scene or whatever. It's either in their ear, I'm like right there with them, no one else can hear, or I'm off to the side telling them. So I tell them a verbal warning, maybe sometimes if I'm patient, 2, 3, 4 verbal warnings, right? But eventually, after the verbal warnings are done, after verbal warning, it's one of 2 options. Either you get removed from the area, or I'm going to flick you in your mouth. Now, removal of the area, that's a timeout, right? You go sit over there, cool off. Or I flick them out. When I say flick them out, I really mean this. You take the finger and you go, oh, it's too hard. So I flick them in the mouth. And the reason for that is because I believe that it gets their attention. It's not damaging at all. It's not. They're not gonna. No one's gonna they've never bled, right? They definitely get waking up. And I think that kids need to learn tactily, right? Like physically, they will learn. I don't think kids have, like, especially young age, and remember my context, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, they don't, it's very difficult for them to reason what they did wrong when they get removed. Now, it may look like they're crying on the side, but I don't think they really learn. I think they have to learn physically, with physical pain, to know that that pain, that physical pain equals to the bad thing that they did. And only after I have verbally warned them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. It usually doesn't go past 5. Like, I give them a lot of verbal warnings. So at this point, if they get flicked in the mouth, it's been 4 times. And I tell them, like, I'm going to flick you in your mouth. So I set the expectation. So when they do it again, I flick them in the mouth, they get waken up. Then I say, after I flick them in the mouth, I say, if you do it again, you're going to get spanked. So I have a scale here, right? Lots of verbal warnings, escalating, probably in volume. Then it either goes one of 2 ways, separation or flicked in the mouth, or sometimes not. You guys might be looking at me like I'm crazy, but this is just what I do. It's what I'm comfortable with. After the flick in the mouth, I say, if you do it again, I'm going to spank you. Now, how do I spank? Look, like I said, I can spank with everything. Wooden spoon, chancla, belt, hand. For me, I personally don't do the hand. I like to have something to have a distance from, like, my physical body. And in Proverbs 23 in the Bible, it gives me a suggestion. Proverbs 23 says, 23:13 says, do not withhold discipline from a child. If you punish them with the rod, they will not die. It's so funny that the rationale for the Bible spanking is they're not going to die. so one, the Bible, like, upholds spanking. It's like the only way, it's like upholds spanking. And then 2, it gives you the rod. So that's what I got hit with when I was younger. My dad had a rod, it was like a meter, 3 foot long, thin stick. And so what we have is it's like a 1 foot, like a little ruler. It looks like a ruler without the metal, like, strip on it. It's actually like a decorative piece of art. Kelsey, my wife, found it in some hipster shop in St. Augustine, Florida. And she found it. It looks it's like really painted, really pretty and stuff. It says, it's a Bible verse. It's hilarious. It says, bind my wandering heart to thee. And at the time we got it, it was like 5 years before we even had kids. It was like, this is the perfect spanking stick. It's like their heart wanders when they sin and when they disobey. And then that spanking stick binds it back to God. So it's like a perfect spanking stick. It's fantastic. And so that's what I use. And what I do is I remove them. I tell them to go up in the room if they're at the house or somewhere separate. I've never had to discipline them outside of the house. It's only been inside the house. So go upstairs, go to the room, and they go to our room, and they wait for me there. And I like have a little powwow with my wife, and we converse. And then usually we're on the same wavelength anyway. And so I grab the spanking stick and I go upstairs. When I go upstairs, I close the door. And I talk to them. First thing I do, I talk to them. I'm holding the stick. They know it's coming. And I say, you knew. I rehearse the scale. I say, I warned you here. I warned you 3 times, 4 times. I flicked you in your mouth. I removed you. I told you this was happening, and you still did it again. You still were disobedient. And this is your sin. This is the consequence of your sin. This is the consequence of your disobedience, is that you have to get you now have to get spanked. This was your choice. Now, I choose to preach the gospel in a very abbreviated version. At our church, we do it in 3 S's: sin, salvation, service. So I say, hey, we all sin, and this is your sin. And because of your sin, it has to be punished. But Jesus took the punishment for you, and he saved you, and he died, and he rose again. And now we live with and for him. But when we sin still, we still have to, we don't want to live like that. We want to live more like Jesus. We want to be obedient to our parents. And so when you sin, I have to discipline this out of you. And I say something to this effect. This is just the things that I go through. You're my child, you're my son, you're my daughter. I cannot allow you to grow up in this way, be that type of person. You're better than that. You are called to a higher purpose. This is not you, and this is not who you will become. You will be a disciplined person, or you'll be kinder, or not, whatever the opposite is, whatever they did. Like, you'll be a kind person. You're going to be a loving person. You're going to be an obedient person, or whatever. And I say, now I have to discipline you. You're the consequences of your sin. Now I have to discipline you and spank you and make sure that you don't do this again, because that's not you. So I pull their pants down, and then and I hit them. One time, usually one time. There was one time that my daughter did 3 bad things. They sinned against I don't know, the teacher and XYZ. So she got hit 3 times in one sitting. That was a lot for her. But I have had no problems for the rest of the year in school. So it works, and she still runs up to me and loves me, and I still love her. We have a great relationship. So yeah, that's how I do it. One more thing, you have to make the spanking hurt. You can't shy away. Don't pull the punches, okay? It has to hurt. Otherwise, it's just a joke. They won't fear anything, and they won't learn anything. It must hurt. You got to make it count. Then afterwards, she's crying, and I usually put the stick down, and I usually hold her. She usually wants a hug from me anyway. She doesn't run off scared of me. She runs up to me, and after I spank her, maybe she takes a moment and she starts crying, and then I hold out my hands, or I sit there, let her cry, and then she wants me to hug her. So then I hug her. I let her know I still love her. Physically and verbally. I still love you. It's all right. I still love you. I'm right here, hugging her. And then I tell her, you still have to make this right, or him. You still have to make this right. So whatever the sin was, yeah, there's, either apologize to mom, apologize to the sibling, apologize to the teacher, write the teacher a letter saying I'm sorry, draw a picture for your brother, go share a toy, whatever it is, make it right even further. And so that's where, that's how it usually ends. And let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree, and where you disagree, and how you punish your kids. Do you spank? Do you not? And do you have any cool examples and cool stories that I could read and kind of have a laugh with you? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you later.